Good morning, management. Today we are presenting Faxe Kondi and its opportunity to expand and go international. Faxe Kondi is a brand under the parent company of Royal Unibrew, which is one of the biggest breweries in Denmark. With a high liquidity, strong brand name in Denmark, and stable positions in countries all over Europe, Royal Unibrew is ready to take its thriving Danish brand, Faxe Kondi, international. With this growth strategy of preparing for globalization, Royal Unibrew can take a proactive stand as a motive to achieve the vision of becoming a leading provider of beverages in Western and Eastern Europe. In order to give Faxe Kondi recommendations on how to go international, we evaluated the internal and external environment in which they operate in and concluded this all in a SWOT. Royal Unibrew has a great amount of strengths, which add to their competitive advantage, and this is the reason they are one of the leading breweries in Denmark. With focus on globalization, Royal Unibrew has a positive organic growth rate, as well as the know-how and competitors for quality-orientated and efficient production. However, when looking into the global market for beverages, Royal Unibrew is quite small compared to the leading beverage suppliers. The biggest threat Royal Unibrew faces, besides changes in excess taxes, are the recent health trends that have occurred throughout Europe. People are becoming more aware of the fact that traditional carbonated beverages have a great amount of sugar and therefore are an unhealthy solution. However, this is where Faxe Kondi comes in with a solution to a more healthier soft drink that also complies with sugar laws in Denmark. This alternative provides people with more options when they are following trends such as a healthy lifestyle. From this analysis, we can see that Royal Unibrew has the resources and capabilities to go international, and there is no better time to do so as economies are recovering in operating countries, allowing for greater disposable income and higher consumer confidence.
I'm going to tell you a little about the business of working culture in Denmark. According to Hofstadter, Gæsteland and Trompenar, we have a few things that we have to take into consideration concerning our own values when it comes to doing business with cultures different from our own. Denmark is a highly developed country where people, of course, are proud of in relation to their lifestyles, and in Denmark it's believed that everyone is equal and everyone should be able to hygge a little bit. When we looked into Trompenar's cultural dimensions, we can see that Denmark is a universalistic society, as Danish practice, approach and standards are of modern belief. They are also very individualistic, as the community tends to be placed after the individual, but also contains elements from the communitarians, as they pay high taxes, which contributes to the welfare and the Danish royal family. In terms of feelings, Danish are not very touchy-feely. They don't blurt out emotions, but they are still not afraid to tell how they really feel. Also, effectiveness and structure are key values. Danes like to be somehow specific. They know where they want to go and they know how to get there, but are very avoidant to conflicts of interest as people make an effort to relate to each other. It's an achieving society where titles are not important, though respect is still required. Danes believe that time is money, so don't waste your time. And it's under your control, not the environment. And when it comes to Gæsteland's business culture, there's a few things I would like to mention that stands out. For example, the individualism, it's ranked very high, which means they have a high preference for loosely knit social framework. Individuals are expected to take care of themselves and their immediate family. It's relatively easy to do business with Danes, as small talk is kept at a minimum, long-term relationships aren't required, and Danes are also known for using a very direct form of communication. And also masculinity, it's ranked very low because Denmark is a very feministic society where everyone is equal and conflicts are resolved by compromise and negotiation. Also in terms of indulgence, the willingness to realize their impulses and desires with regard to enjoying themselves and having fun are very important. And there's a tendency towards optimism with a high importance on leisure time where they act as they please and spend money as they wish.
So after what Selena just said, we will start looking into the funnel model. We will start with step 1. Here we divided the whole world into smaller parts. We started looking at the geographics, and then we divided into the cultural thing. We want something close to Denmark, but we also need a country similar to the Danish market. Therefore, we chose only to look at Europe. If we now take step 2, we put up some criterias. We need a GDP over 28.700, and we need a Gini coefficient under 30. Then we need an income over 20,000, just to make sure that the market we were going into were an economic stable country. After that, we ended up with 10 countries: the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Finland, France, Luxembourg, Norway, and Sweden. Then we took some new criteria. Some of them I will just highlight right now. We took the infrastructure, look into the age between 10 to 30 years old and boys. That age group should be high in the country. That is our target group. The last criteria I will highlight is currency. Countries like Norway and Sweden is not using the euro.
In step 3B, we have the fine grain screening. From the berry Christian just told you about, we took the countries with the highest score and scored them in this model. The 3 highest scored countries are Germany, Netherlands and Sweden. The scoring is based on market attractiveness and competitive strength. The criteria we chose for the markets is what you can see here. Germany scored the highest with a score at 99%. When we look at the market attractiveness of Germany and its industry, we see a stable yet affected market with a lot of external change. The population is also increasing, but the demographic is though changing, which means there are less people under the age of 14 and more elderly. Distributors in Germany also have a bigger influence on companies' decisions. They urge for the companies to reduce prices or to change their packaging into smaller bottles. Otherwise, they could lose shelf space. Next was Sweden with a score at 94%. Sweden has been increasing in the sales of soft drinks and energy drinks because people try to find a shortcut instead of exercising. The Swedes are becoming more aware of health benefits, which leads to an increase of sales of low-calorie or non-sugar beverages. And lastly, there's Netherlands with the 89%. Netherlands market is also increasing and predicted to increase even further. But there is a decrease in sugary beverages industry because people are getting more and more health concerned. This leaves us with Germany, and to go further with step 4, microsegmentation.
Next up is microsegmentation, and I will begin with the geography. Germany is seen as a large, powerful country in Europe. It consists of 16 Bundesländer regions, which differs a lot in size from small Bremen in the north to huge Bayern in the south. Even though Germany today is one united country, we don't have to go longer back than to 1989, where the wall divided Germany and Berlin in east and west. This year it is 27 years since the wall was brought down, but the eastern region still suffers from lower living standards than their western countrymen. Demographics. 20% of the German population is between the age 10 to 30. Approximately half of them are men. The former East Germany differs from the rest of Germany with significant differences in several parameters. One of them is the salary. We here see that the eastern regions in average just have 83.9% of the average German population salary. The lower salary is the result of lower education level and a fewer number of large companies. Next is psychographics. Studies have shown that lower income equals unhealthier living, which is important for Faxe Kondi. By unhealthy living means more junk food, more soft drinks, and more inactivity. Consumer motivations. Soft drinks are mostly consumed when the thirst arrives. That is the main motivation. Furthermore, soft drinks are often compared to social acceptance, which leads to a second or an alternative motivation factor. This is the trend in the most of the world and not only in Germany. At last we have our conclusion. With these different trends in the German society, we think that it is relevant to launch Faxe Kondi in the eastern regions of Germany, including Schleswig-Holstein, Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, Brandenburg, Berlin, Sachsen and Sachsen-Anhalt.
So now that we know we are going to do business with Germany, we can look into the dimensions and see if they fit into the Danish dimensions that we put up earlier. And some of the things we can see from the Hofstadter comparison, they have quite similar values, but some of them rank out. When it comes to power distance, it's fairly similar. Denmark is a bit lower than what Germany is, but they are highly decentralized. They use a direct participant form of communication. When it comes to individualism, ranked very high as Denmark, which is very good. They have a strong belief in the ideal of self-actualization. Loyalty is based on personal preference, and responsibility. Communication is also amongst one of the most direct in the world, which fits into the Danish model. Though in terms of masculinity, they're ranked very high, where Denmark was very low as they were very feministic. Germany is very masculine. Performance is highly valued, and managers is expected to be decisive and assertive compared to the Danish version, where they involve people, and there's a lot more respect between the two individuals. Uncertainty avoidance, very high, which is also different from what we have in Denmark. There's a slight preference for uncertainty avoidance and a deductive approach. Germans, they prefer to compensate for their higher uncertainty by strongly relying on expertise. When it comes to long-term orientations, also a bit different from Denmark. They're a very pragmatic country. The truth depends on the situation, context, and time. But they do have an ability to adapt tradition quickly to change conditions, and a strong propensity to save and invest, which is also different from Denmark. When it comes to indulgence, it's ranked middle, where Denmark was very high, as the German culture is really restrained in nature. And they have a tendency to be cynical and pessimistic, where Danish people had a tendency to be more optimistic. And they do not put a lot of emphasis on leisure time, as their actions are restrained by social norms, and they feel that indulging themselves is somewhere wrong.
We chose an intermediate entry mode as a license to Germany. So the advantages for this strategy is that we are being close to the foreign customers and market, and that they know a lot of the culture and the market in Germany. Governments tend to prefer the national products instead of export goods. It requires a little capital investment and will provide a higher rate of return on capital employed. But there is, of course, some disadvantages too. The licensee may have a lack of competences and knowledge about the product, which can lead to cost growing faster than the income. In this matter, it distinguished from the export mode. A danger of the licensee not fully exploit the market and leave it open for competitors to enter, so they lose control over the marketing. There could also be a danger of the lack of control over the licensee's operations, and the negotiations with the licensee and government in Germany are really costly. As to the value chain, it is where Denmark does all the research and development, and the licensee does production, marketing, and sales and services to the customer.
So Leon, let's talk about the budget. We started out with an investment on 7.5 million Danish crowns. That includes marketing and also some licensing agreements. It was difficult to find out what the license agreement will cost, but we estimate it will cost 2 million each year. Then we need to do the production line over again, and that will cost about 1.5 million. So we ended up in a total with 7.5 million. Now let's look at the budget. We estimate that we will sell 660,000 units the first year. That means that we will sell 1 unit to 20% of our target group. We will get 1.5 euros for this. And then we ended up with a total turnover on 7.3 million Danish crowns. And with a contribution margin on 40%, we ended with a contribution margin on 2.9 million the first year. If we now look at the cash flow, we can see the investment on 7.5 million the first year. After that, we got 2 million each year. We can see the investment will be good again in 3 to 4 years. This will give us an internal rate on 56% with a calculation rent on 15%. That is a return on investment on 7.7. In our worst case, the internal rate will be 36 and the return on investment on 5.4.
As we can see, Germany would be the best location for Faxe Kondi to expand into, due to their cultural similarities and economic conditions. With a high return on its investment, Royal Unibrew can accomplish its vision of becoming global, whilst introducing Faxe Kondi to new potential markets. Thank you.